Welcome listeners to another episode of the Left Line podcast. I'm Adam Pickering, and today we've got the pleasure of introducing you to a wonderful local artist called Dowdy Matsiko. Nottingham-based British-Ugandan singer-songwriter Dowdy has received praise from Giles Peterson, Lauren Laverne, Jam Supernova, our very own Dean Jackson, and many others, including comedian and podcaster Adam Buxton, whose interview with him we'll be speaking about during the show. So this was recorded live in front of an audience at Nottingham Central Library on Friday 6th of September 2024, and we get a few tracks performed from Dowdy himself during the show. Those three tracks in order are Fool Me As Many Times As You Like, Hymn, that's Hymn, and I Am Grateful For My Friends. Now, we are going to be talking about themes of depression and mental health during this podcast, so just a little trigger warning. If you're not in the mood for it, maybe listen to a different podcast in our series today. This podcast and all our series of events at Nottingham Central Library were made possible thanks to funding from Arts Council England, so big thank you to Arts Council England for the support.
Hi, this is Sophie from Left Line, Nottingham's iconic culture magazine. Each month we publish a beautiful free magazine that shines a light on the art, music, food, literature and more that makes Nottingham such a vibrant and creative city to live in. It's a bit unusual for a local print magazine to exist these days, but we've managed to keep going for over 20 years, giving the city's artists, photographers and writers a platform to publish their work. We distribute 15,000 copies in over 300 venues across the county, and you can find Left Line in every local library, every Castle Rock pub, in all active Nottingham leisure centres, and all the best bars, cafes and hangouts in Nottingham. If you're ever in town at the start of the month, you may have seen our Left Line bike rolling around the streets. In line with our pledge to be a carbon neutral company, we deliver our magazines on foot, by electric bicycle or where strictly necessary by van. You can also read the full magazine and lots more for free at leftline.co.uk. Check out the events listings on our website to find out what's going on in Notts, and if you'd like to promote your business or organisation with us, please visit leftline.co.uk/advertise.
So how are you doing, Dowdy? Are you alright?
I'm alright, yeah. I'm feeling really good. I had a really emotional gig last night in London, and so I'm feeling... also, I ate a curry yesterday afternoon that lit up my world, and so I'm also still kind of buzzing off that. So I actually had like a warm feeling on the back of my head, like it was amazing. So I'm just riding high on those waves, yeah.
I too had a curry last night, so there you go, we're off to a flying start. How do you feel about is this your first time in the new Nottingham Central Library?
I came in to get a library card not so long ago, maybe a couple months back. Yeah, I love library cards. Everyone should read. I love reading, but I feel like I've got like some negative core beliefs about my own ability to read, and I'm just addressing those slowly and enjoying it. And so, yeah, I love books, and it's like a direct inspiration injection.
Did you get a chance for a wander around the new Green Heart?
No, I've not been yet. I've been away.
Was a bit late, wasn't it?
It was a bit late, so I didn't get to wander about, but I will, and I will thoroughly enjoy it for years to come. Yeah.
Fingers crossed, eh? You might have to muck in and do some volunteering if you want to, that kind of business.
Do what I can.
Things are.
We need to keep it going.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm a little bit nervous on account of you've been on the nation's biggest podcast.
Don't be, it's
Adam
all good.
Buxton. How was meeting Adam Buxton?
It was amazing. He's a really lovely guy. Yeah, he. Do you know the story about how we even met?
No.
So, this is going back. I don't know if it's interesting to tell you, but I started touring with Porco Quartet and Go-Go Penguin around like 2015 and 2016. We played in Norwich, and on those tours, I was opening for those bands, and I was listening to the Adam Buxton podcast quite a lot. And me and my friend Akira, he lives in Japan now. He used to live in Nottingham. He introduced me to Bug. And so when we were making my first EPs, we were in my friend Chris's house, and we were watching Bug like quite late into the night. And so And then I was listening to the podcast on tour, and I was like, we're playing Norwich. I know Adam Buxton's in Norwich. We should just hit him up. And I chickened out the first time, and then like a few months later, I had another show in Norwich. I was like, I'm just gonna take a chance. So I just messaged him on SoundCloud, and I was like, hey man, I'm a massive fan of the podcast. Also, I was kind of hoping he'd make me a music video. I was like, would you be up for... I had a song called Sandwiches, and I really wanted to do... I was like, can you do a video for Sandwiches? And then he was like, he got back to me. He just got back to me. He was like, oh, big ups. He didn't say big ups. He said, thank you for getting in touch. Schedule's kind of hectic. Can't do the video. Well, might not be able to do the video, but I'd love to come to the gig. So him and one of his sons came to the show, Frank, and then we also met up in King's Cross for a cup of tea, and he bought me a Rooibos tea, and we had a nice chat. And the video never happened, but that was like 2016. And then at that time, he was like, oh, I'd love to get a musical guest on the podcast, maybe. And like people who like jobbing musicians, it serves us well just not to believe anything. Don't get your hopes up. So I was like, cool, man, that sounds amazing. As and when. And so, and then, 8 years later, we did it. So.
It's a long game, isn't it? Put yourself out there, and I mean, moral of the story is for budding artists out there is ask, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, yeah. One of the few occasions I managed to step outside of my own insecurities and just be like, all right, mate, and yeah, and but also it's testament to him as well, because he's such a kind person and consistent in his support for creativity and people trying stuff. And yeah, so I also played shows with him as well. I did a bunch of shows back in 2019 and stuff. So I've played the Dome with him in May as well. But like incredibly kind, and I owe that man a lot. Beautiful.
And some incredible guests on his podcast. I mean, that puts you on the same plane as like Jeff Goldblum, right?
Do you know what's really... It wigs me out that Paul McCartney has also had a chat with him on that. People can like scroll through the episodes and be like, "There's Paul McCartney. There's that guy. I have no idea who he is." And then just and it's not lost on me how ridiculous that is. And
so you are one of the Beatles, basically.
Basically, I could have written, Revolver. I couldn't. I don't know why I said that. But to be honest, though, I don't really think about it. Because it doesn't really mean anything other than he was really good to me and invited me on, and so I'm not. Don't get it twisted. I am not at that level. I'm just trying to. I wasn't joking when I said it's a blag. I didn't make up the stories, but I made all the songs up from scratch on like a whim. It's it doesn't come from nothing, but it kind of does, and so I'm just grateful. Just happy to be here.
I think everyone here is grateful for what you do musically and for being yourself, Dowdy. That's all that matters. So you've been interviewed by Adam Buxton on the nation's biggest podcast. How does it feel being here with Adam Pickering on the Left Line
Just
podcast?
as good, if not better.
Keep it coming.
It's... It feels like my heart's about to burst with just adoration and love, which is true of this moment.
The feeling's mutual. I'm going to try not to do too much of this because I know we share many tastes, but I love Go-Go Penguin and Portico Quartet. Brilliant. Saw Portico Quartet at Band on the Wall on my 21st birthday, which was a long time ago.
Wow. Like Duncan from Portico did the design. He didn't do the painting of my artwork on my album, but he did all the package designs. And Go-Go Penguin, both those bands showed me the ropes of how to be a professional musician at like in the kind of rooms that they play. And that was a real education. And I have my live agent, Naomi. I had breakfast with her this morning and a coffee in Waterloo train station. And I told her, I was like, she kind of took a chance on me and put me in with those bands. And sure, like, I worked really hard. but again, it's like I was, it was a mad opportunity, and those guys I've been friends with those guys now for nearly 10 years, and they didn't teach me everything I know, but a lot of what I know is off those experiences.
They're wildly different style of music, really, as well, aren't they?
Yeah,
big serious jazz, like really like. I mean, I'm not sure whether you'd call it jazz or kind of post. It's kind of jazz post.
Yeah, I don't know if any of them call it jazz anymore. But what's cool about my experience is the jazz world and the house music world were the first communities to really open up for me. I play acoustic guitar and sing. It's sort of vaguely folk. But like the first folk festival I played was last year. So it's been, and I've been hanging out with jazzers for ages, and they were just kind of really open, and they kind of, people like Giles Peterson, who wouldn't I wouldn't have immediately thought he would be the guy to champion me the way he has, and he's changed my life. Like the jazz community. I don't know. I think it was initially with house dudes as well, like house dudes like Booker Shade and all these people were like, they really dug the tempos because I was like slow. But yeah, jazz.
This
forever.
is a good segue. Stan, if we can keep on the jazz note.
Yeah, I don't know anything about jazz either as well. Like I've got no chops.
Well, you've just played at a massive jazz
can't play
festival,
the lick.
which I went to last year. Another Adam creeps into the picture because Adam Scrimshaw, who I know from helping out at Wawa 45s many moons ago.
He's
lovely. Yeah,
he actually is the seed of like the whole Giles thing. I think I might be getting this wrong because everyone who I've spoken to has a different take on it. But 2010, I finished uni in 2009. And I sort of quit guitar because I was so dejected by the what I thought. I just fell off the path, Like I thought I was too old to be a musician, which is dumb. But it's just sometimes the impression young people get the wrong end of the stick sometimes, and I was one of those people with the wrong stick. And I just sort of had given up. And my friend Chris, my friend Ryan, my friend Dan, and Mark started a band called High Hope Society, and they started it initially without me, and then at one point they were like, "No, Dowdy, we're going to go to Blue Barn Studios and you're going to come." And I was working at a call centre somewhere in the centre of town here, some gnarly talk sales job, and just hating my life. And then I said to my boss, I was like, "Can I get some time off work to go to the studio?" And I think, it serves the story better if he laughed in my face. So that's kind of what he did. But yeah, it felt emotionally, that's what it felt like. And so I just called a sickie and did the studio sesh. And Chris, the drummer, Chris Boot, who plays in the band Mama's Gun, and he also plays for Lone, plays drums for Lone sometimes. He's done loads of cool stuff. Plays with Alice Russell at the moment as well. He was like, "I'm really into this dude called Scrimshire. I'm going to get him to mix one of our tracks." And then he did, and it was like Christmas Day. It turned me on to like the power of mixing as well. Like you can record, and then Adam just kind of takes the vision and just like takes it to its ultimate conclusion.
He's a master.
He's amazing.
Incredible album.
Yeah. So one last thing. Bandcamp. Andrew Jervis at Bandcamp saw Scrimshire's name. Adam's mixed all my stuff since 2010, and he saw Scrimshire's name in 2014 on Houston in the Blind, and then he put it on the Bandcamp Weekly, and I think that was before the radio plays. So I think all that stuff happened after.
Oh, I didn't know he'd been mixing your stuff, so learning
Yeah.
here, that's good. So the point I was going to make is, so he runs a great little label these days called Albert's Favourites.
Yes.
And I saw him post that he described you as king of the festival at We Out Here. So this is Giles Peterson's jazzy, soul-y kind of festival, I suppose. Yeah, well, we'll get to that, won't we? But how did you enjoy We Out Here? I was going to ask you, how does it feel to be king of a festival?
Well, I definitely wasn't king of the festival, but I had a great time at the festival. I've got a radio show called Love Will Save the... the radio show is called Depressival, and on a community station called Love Will Save the Day, and everyone kind of descends to We Out Here from that station, and it was just like a little community gathering, and it was so many friends. It was like I played on Friday, and then I just had a holiday. I saw Sampha. Sampha was unbelievable. Like this, the level of joy and depth, which is something like I've not nailed joy, but like I might have done all right on depth. But like to see that on stage and like just bear witness to it, it was insane. K Tempest made me cry multiple times. Andre 3000 turned up with a flute and it was amazing. He did a whole improvised like hour and a half, and it was like people were just a bit confused at first because I already knew the record, but the audience I think they kind of were hoping for something else, and then it became really beautiful. It was this kind of massive cacophony of sound at the end of the set, and I was just like, big ups, and yeah, it was fun times.
It's a great festival, isn't it? I was there last year. And
nice.
Yeah, wish I got there this year. Get lots of Nottingham crew involved. They've built this such an incredible scene, and I know Noah Ball, the booker, he's brilliant guy, and they've really they've like piece by piece, and they involve all the local crews and just like tentacles everywhere. They really are out there. Yeah,
it's honestly great. Community. Like I don't know. I've not had an experience like that where you can go to a festival, and the people that are like giving you big ups and saying nice one for playing, are the same people that you admire. Like you admire everybody there. And it's like I said it on stage actually. I was like, what's really cool is that at that festival, there's a sort of underlying understanding that what we're about to partake in and do here is sacred. Sharing songs and dancing to songs and being joyful, it is hard to come by in genuine experiences. And so, yeah, I was chatting to Naomi. I was like, "Can we do it every year?" We'll see if we try.
Yeah, I went to Croatia 8 times for the same similar cruise sort of festivals for Soundwave and Outlooks. Yeah, it's absolute vibe.
I can go on my own and just hang and find like hockey people. Do you know what I mean? Just
So let's get to your music then. Let's talk about this depressing mess of it. So talk to me about The King of Misery. So as I'm sure many of you here will know, we're talking about themes of mental health and depression, and as you've said, it kind of starts in this place of guilt and ends in a place of maybe more gratitude. No spoilers, sorry.
Yeah.
And then you had your Introduction to Failure EP. I was checking out your bio and it had I thought that was album by the time it had got to...
An Introduction to Failure was the release I did with Name Records, and it was just the combination of the first 2 EPs. My first EP was called A Brief Introduction to Failure, and the second EP was called The Lingering Effects of Disconnection. And it just seemed, we wanted to put it on a vinyl, and they were like, we should do it. I couldn't figure out a title, so I just called it An Introduction to Failure, so it just was a little bit less brief. Yeah.
It's listed as an album on Spotify, so I've been
metadata in it.
Misled. Talk us through your process with those albums and how they kind of linked into the journey you've been on at the time, which we can get a bit more into if you want.
Yeah. So the first EP was done, and this is also like, okay, I'll just tell you how it happened and how it went. The first EP, so 2014, done High Hope Society. High Hope Society, we all lived in different cities and countries at one point. Like Mark lived in Berlin, Ryan was in Cambridge, Chris was in Brighton, I was here in Notts, and Dan was near London. And so we were trying to keep that band going. We never did a gig. We just met up once a year and made like what I thought was really fun music, and I really enjoy it. I'm very proud of that stuff. But I was just gigging on my own. And then Chris was like, "Hey man, I've got some new mics and like a new Universal Audio interface. I reckon we can record some pretty nice demos at mine. Do you want to come over?" So I go to Brighton, record with Chris, and then what we record there ends up being the first EP. It sounded amazing. We recorded it in a front room, like a front room in a 1-bed flat in Brighton. We did the whole thing, and that's where the song Houston in the Blind comes from, and all that stuff I was saying about Scrimshire and Giles and that lot. And then, so Brief Introduction to Failure comes out, a guy called Sean West becomes my manager. And then, and that first EP, it was a really like lovely, like there was no ambition in that work at all. Not in terms of, it was ambitious in its sound. What I mean is there was no expectation. Like I didn't go into the studio expecting to get like a great record. We were just gonna make some demos. And then it was like, oh, we can actually release these. This is nice. And then, like, I didn't have any thoughts of radio play, stuff I wanted, but I didn't, think it really possible. But then Sean becomes my manager, and then I get Naomi as an agent, and it's amazing. And then do another EP, and that like just pushes things a bit further. And then Name Records come along and sign me, and we re-release the EPs on them. And then I go hit this kind of creative block. There's also a backstory with the record label stuff, which is quite gnarly and depressing, but I won't bore you with that side. But creatively, I was struggling to articulate what I wanted to say. And the second EP was harder because suddenly we had something to lose, it was like, oh, I hope people like this, and and that was for me. I think for some people that's really motivating. For some artists, it's like sport, and they just meet that pressure, and it just works. But for me at that time, I just was like, I can't do this. But I didn't say I can't do this. I just procrastinated, and so I hit this kind of wall, and I just started writing tunes intermittently. And 2016 was the year I got did the first demo of a song called Hymn, which is on the album. And that song saw 4 iterations. And so so 2016 to, let's say, 2018, I thought I'd call it writer's block. I was still writing, but it was just like Blood from a Stone vibes. And in that time, the guy that signed me left Name, and a new pair of people came in, and they came to a gig I was doing, and they were like, what are you up to? And I just said to them, I'm making an album. And they were like, let's do a brand new deal. So I did an album deal, which was, it was kind of stupid how that happened in terms of, I still owed them a record. I still owed them like an EP, but they were really keen. And to be fair, I didn't want to do another EP. And then I realized production-wise, I was really unhappy with the process. It wasn't that so essentially I didn't want to compromise. I didn't want to go into a studio and someone say, I don't like your idea, I'd like to try it my way. And I just couldn't, for some reason I just couldn't cope with that. And also the songs I wanted to write were depressing. And as lovely as my best friends are, when you're in a pub and you tell someone, they're like, what are you going to do? I'm going to make the most depressing record I can. And it's going to be there's going to be no bangers. One song's going to be 60 BPM. And it's going to be my job. And they're like, I don't know if that's a thing, man. And so my friend Chris, bless his heart, he was so supportive, but he would say to me every now and again, and he was, bless his heart for this, because it was almost like, it was the kind of encouragement that a good friend would give you. He was like, you don't have to do this. And because I complained the whole way through making the album as well. So I started recording properly in 2018. Well, that's when the process officially started. And I kind of but then I also decided to self-produce. And by self-producing, I meant engineering and recording everything myself. And so I learned how to position mics and use Ableton. And I did it all in a terraced house in Forest Fields on Stanley Road. Big up Stanley Road. I don't live there anymore, so, I can say that. But I really miss it, though. It was a really exciting place to live. And then it took me 2 years. So I just kind of chiseled away at this kind of bonkers piece of work. And it was grueling.
I think we first met on that Stanley Road residence of yours.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was just a fleeting meeting.
Oh, mate.
But yeah,
Sorry, that was quite a ramble.
No, that's all right. I mean, you've told us about the technical side of it.
Oh,
but
cool.
I feel like we're tiptoeing around the critical,
The core of the
content,
substance of the material.
not many artists, like you say, put it on the tin like that. So
Okay.
it's very kind of out there with the titles and and
I will say this about the title. So the painting came first. So Stephen Chu, the artist who painted this, an oil painting of me holding a pink ukulele. He did the painting. We've been friends since 2004. He was a music tech technician in my secondary school in Cambridgeshire, where I grew up, where I spent most of my childhood. And he did the drawings on my very early, my first demos when I was 16. And he's been doing all my artwork since 2004. So anything with Dowdy Matsiko's name on it, which you cannot find because they're terrible, terrible songs. All that stuff had his artwork on it, and so he's kind of grown with me. And then 2016, he was like, I want to take a picture of you holding a pink ukulele to do a painting, because I've not done a painting in a while. And I said, yeah, took the sent a few months later, he sent me this text of an easel with the painting, and he said, I'm going to call this The King of Misery. And it was a joke. And I said, that's a really good title, and that's the artwork. And so before the record was even done, before I'd even hit record, I knew what the record was. I could see it. And so that kind of, to add context to what I was saying earlier about how I felt in terms of producing it myself and writing the songs the way I wanted to write them, that painting was the inspiration for it, because he did this thing. Sorry to keep going, but Stephen's got this thing. I really need to tell him this more in person. But when you're really seen by someone, and I am. I'll talk more about bipolar affective disorder in a minute. But one of the things, I had this diagnosis of bipolar. Went through psychosis. Had to take a drug called olanzapine. It's an antipsychotic, and it's a miracle worker, if not a bully. And the problem is, it's like an elephant sitting on you, and you get better psychologically, but I put on quite a lot of weight, and so I have this I'm still working on it actually, because I'm still it's a lived experience, but what I see as beautiful is warped when I look in the mirror. Yeah. It's, sorry. When I look in the mirror, I don't see myself as beautiful. But Stephen does. And that's like a mate. And that's really, he gave me this present on my 30th birthday. Oh man, he gave me this painting. I'd done a show with our mate Adam Buxton in 2018 or 2019 when he was doing his book. I opened for his warm-up shows where he was doing book readings. And Stephen came to that show at the Norwich Arts Centre, and he gives me this picture, and it's this sort of black and white ink drawing, and he's framed it as well. He framed it by hand. And I was like, oh, cheers, mate. And I didn't really, it was me from 2014, side on, no definable chin, and sort of in the middle of singing or sort of in the middle of doing something. And I remember looking at it and just being like, ugh, all right, cheers, mate. And then then later that summer, I was just sat on my bed, and I was like, oh, that's a painting. And I just looked at it, and I stared at it, and I just started weeping, heaving, just the grace in his gift of looking at me and just being like, dude, just showing me the mirror and just being like, this is beautiful, and yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Anyway,
thank you for sharing.
Stephen Chu is his name. He's incredible. Hold my breath till I forget time. Stop using sight. Give up on trying. 'cause my chest's been tight for the longest time. Fool me as many times as you like. Hide behind doors in extinguished light. Pick the right time to give me a fright, 'cause I've said I want too many times. Fool me as many times as you like. Fool me as many times as you like. I've always hidden parts of myself out of view. I chose not to see it. And in the pit of my stomach, I think I always knew the dark was always waiting. My feet want to move forward, but my eyes don't tell the truth. And I'm too scared to move on. So just make me a part of me, put me in something new. I don't do much changing. I never did much changing. I'll keep falling into fire. Call me a fool if I am a fool. I just want to feel less tired. I don't want to keep breaking into. Inside I can see a liar. Every mirror I choose whispers shame upon you. Scared to admit my heart's expired. If I say that I do, will it mean that I lose?
So you're good at sharing your innermost sort of, feelings and tensions and all this kind of stuff. And in terms of the process of, getting that, putting that on a record, you put all those feelings in a box and then you've gone.
It wasn't, I wouldn't say I'm good at it in the sense that if I am good at it, it's only because it was the only option.
Yeah.
Everything else was tasteless food. If I wrote a song about, I don't know, like fancying someone, that wasn't where I was at. If I wrote a song about how happy I was, like that wasn't where I was at, and it's like I'm allergic to. I talk a lot of nonsense. I'm an expert. Well, I'm not an expert. No one's an expert at nonsense. That's the point. but I love nonsense and that stuff. But what's really cool is I've lost my train of thought. But what's really cool is, what was I saying?
It's cool that you're so honest, man.
Oh.
Like, I think.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just being truthful, as truthful as you can, without obviously like just absolutely mullering yourself. But it has to. Music for me has been a refuge since I was a child, and it's such a. Everybody experiences it differently, and everybody has their own thing that they go to, but I think it would have been anything. I would think it was so tunnel vision. I was like, this is the only thing I'm interested in doing, like working out these emotions and these experiences. I mean, sometimes even just writing tunes and not really knowing what they're about until you've done them and look at them later. It was the only thing I was interested in. Like I was like, I've got a song called Sandwiches. All right, so Sandwiches starts off like a banger. It's from 2016. It's from the 2015 EP, and I was writing it as we were recording it, and the guys in the studio, Chris and my friend Ben Daniel, who's an amazing bass player. He deps for the Staves, and like he's done some really cool stuff over the years. He was like, everyone was just like, this song slaps, man. You got to finish it. And so I was like, cool. Rather than finishing it with like a chorus or something uplifting, it moves into this like depressing section about an experience of psychosis, in which there was one night where it felt like the longest night of my life. Back in like 2012, I was in the fetal position. I should add trigger warnings to this sort of stuff because it is quite harrowing. But I was very unwell, and I was very paranoid. I thought there were snipers on the roof, and I crawled into the fetal position in the bathroom, and I watched the sun go up and the sun come down, and I didn't move. And it was horrible. And so I just put that in the song. And they were like, what? And I was like, that's what we're doing. and it was just, because you get across, I don't know, I feel like sometimes I'm not always my best friend from like a pop perspective where, there's an idea, if it's something I'm really excited about that I think is good or emotionally connecting, I just want to make it more honest. I don't want to make it more danceable. Although I'm trying to work on that. I think joy is really an exciting thing. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
It's cool. And how does it feel? So I want to kind of know in terms of like how it helps you process, manage, and move on through kind of mental health. Once you've got that out there, like, do you feel kind of exposed for a while? Does it take a little? Are you sort of extrovert, introvert, battling those two sort of tensions, or does it help? Or ultimately, do you feel?
I'm starting to get the feeling that most of life is just relearning the same lessons over and over again. If I'm being totally honest, I had another experience of psychosis in 2020, and while what led to that was a real convergence of like mad situations just kind of piling on, as everybody experienced that period that summer. In terms of moving on, like I don't know, I think there's so much of the music still ongoing, it's still living. It doesn't necessarily, I'm going to quote Alanis Morissette, I think, where she said something along the lines of once that like it's therapeutic, but it's not like therapy. Like if you write a song about a traumatic experience, it doesn't mean that you've dealt with it and it's moved on. It just means that you wrote a song. And so for me, what I try and do day to day, and what I'm trying to do at the moment is learn from them, and I'm still learning from them. Like still dissecting those experiences and trying to make sense of it. and the songs were doing that. That was, there was I think making the album gave me a lot of peace in that process. Even though I really complained. Like, anybody who saw me that time, I was like, how's the album going? I was like, terribly. And like, I was, I really griped about the privilege of making an album, which is bonkers, But yeah, as I go, for example, as I play more shows and as I write more songs and as I carry on living, I become more and more hesitant to throw out any conclusions or any idea that perhaps making an album will solve your problems. But do you know what? A problem shared, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's what's beautiful is, like, you're all here, right? And I hope that's because of songs, not just because you think I'm a cool guy, because that's even wilder. What an accusation. But like, like the music, just by what's been a miracle in my eyes of, me and my friend Ryan, when we were 16, used to sit at the edge of my bed and I'd show Ryan songs and he'd show me his songs and we'd be like, this is mad, mate, I can't believe we just wrote these, this is so cool. And we still behave exactly the same way, except with better boundaries because we're adults. But, when I play a show and someone cries and tells me their experiences, I find it incredibly moving, but also it's a privilege to be there for someone, even though you're not there. Like I'm not in your lives, but the music lives with you and it connects with you in a way, and maybe it gives you the courage to look at something straight in the eye and not be so afraid, because that's what I was working on. It was fear management. Not say I'm not a brave man, but
Yeah, I think it totally resonates with me what you said about, mental health. It's never done, is it? It's an ongoing, it's like a ritual, you've got to kind of keep going through that cycle, keep pushing through. You find new things to worry about, new things to gripe about. But,
oh my goodness, yeah.
Have you to that effect, are you writing again? Are you kind of thinking ahead now artistically?
Yeah, so it's not horrific, the hard truth of music these days is that you've got to have another one ready to go. I do not currently have that album finished, but I've started the process. Okay, so I'm trying to write 100 songs in 100 days. Most of them I'm on song 26. And it's like day 30 probably, or day 32. And let's say songs, I'd say about all of it's bad. But I wrote, but there's bits that are cool. My friend Matt Blix here, he said, if you get to the end of that and you've got like 8 great starts, that's brilliant. And so that's the plan, it's just to get over pen fear. It's just like a daily exercise, a bit like any job of repetition. I think I used to write songs in a way that was, particularly for this album, I wrote them like my good ideas were going to run out. And now I just think I need to just not worry about that. And so hopefully the next record will be finished this year. And then we'll see. But I don't know. I'm still figuring it out.
And in 66 days or so, you'll have enough material for like the next 20 years worth of albums. So.
You know what's interesting though? I think having a concept to ground the work really inspired me to start writing properly again, because when I had The King of Misery, I knew the story of it. Like before I'd finished writing the songs, I knew I used to do this thing in the studio where I'd draw like a graph, like emotionally, how I wanted it to flow. And I'd sort of picture the whole record. And I knew The King of Misery was really just like a kind of just looking in the mirror and just sort of trying to accept what was going on with me. And this time round, the concept is like love. And I've just started reading a Bell Hooks book. I love there's a thing called, what's it called? It's the thing where you basically know enough not to know you're wrong. No, so you know enough to think you're right, but you don't know enough to know that you're wrong. And so I've just started reading these books on love, and I'm just sort of realizing that I don't really understand it in the deepest possible sense. And actually, loving as a doing rather than like a feeling, it's a real challenge. And what's exciting about that for me as a writer is I actually have to do it. Like, I have to be like a better son and a better brother and a better friend, and not better, but like more loving. And what does that mean? And it's like, self-love. Like, there's just one little line from this book so far, and it's just it's a really simple statement. Bell Hooks writes that it's like love and abuse cannot coexist. Like, they cannot coexist. And then it makes you think, oh, shit. Sorry, I'm very abusive to myself, and and you kind of, when you start, and that's been I'm not sure where all that will end up with my songwriting, but that's something I'm really excited about. And I'm not into, I like things that are beautiful and pretty, but it really has to be, the weight of it has to be there, and so that's kind of what I'm working on.
Yeah, keep on. Yeah, self-love. You can't really do enough work on, can you? It's so crucial.
Yeah, and just learning. Like, I think there's sometimes when I was 19, I thought I knew everything. When I was 21, I thought I knew everything, and now I'm 36 now, and I know virtually nothing. And I feel like, and that's what's been really fun about reading as well. Just like discovering. I feel like I've been on such a similar journey. We are the same age, so giving the game away. But can we talk about other artists that you kind of? So I'm sure I speak for many of our listeners at home and a lot of the audience here when I say your music is such a healing place, such a kind, warm, loving kind of place, really, and it's a lot to do with that honesty and openness. I think you lay yourself out there, and it's exposed. So I mean, what other kind of artists do you kind of find that space of retreat in? What other? Well, I find that more in people, just like the thing of openness, and just it's hard to, I don't know, it's hard for me to articulate. There's some artists that influence me musically. I don't know, on the emotional thing, I don't know if there's, like Sufjan Stevens was a big thing for me as a teenager into my mid to late 30s, which so like Sufjan's amazing. Nick Drake was such a huge influence on me from a guitar perspective. Jeff Buckley. I got Grace when I was doing my GCSEs. I was in FOP in Cambridge, and I had to do, because I was doing really poorly at school, I had to do like a crash course at another school in the summer, and I stayed with some family friends in the city in central in Cambridge, and so every day I'd walk past FOP, and I just went in there one day and I bought 2 albums, maybe 3 albums. Yeah, I bought 3 albums. So this is 2002 or 2003. And I bought Shadows Collide with People by John Frusciante. And that had a tune on it called Cut Me Out, which was just like, ooh, I think it was called Cut Me Out. And I remember listening to that record and just being like, what the hell is this? Because I was into the Chili Peppers. But like, and also there's a band called the Mars Volta, who John played with occasionally as well, who were amazing. And I was into those bands, but that Shadows Collide with People, just like, I was like, and I didn't know about his drug addiction. I didn't know anything about his personal life, really, maybe vaguely, but like, I was too young to really understand what that might have, YouTube wasn't massive then, so I couldn't see footage of him in his worst moments. I say worst moments, in his, his struggle. He's a phenomenal guitar player and an incredible artist, and that was a huge. As I was throughout my teen years, he was my favorite guitar player, like full stop. And that record just like, whoa. And then in the same purchase, I bought Grace on a whim. Like, I just saw the front cover and I thought, all right. And I got home and just like, was like, whoa, levitating. Like, and then this isn't a particularly cool record, or at least not in the same way, but Snow Patrol, the Final Straw. And that particular album had a really strong atmosphere to it. It was like there's a song called Somewhere a Clock is Ticking, and that song I was like, what is happening here? It was melancholic and I was really into post rock, and it's got a kind of post rock edge to it. That's another thing, post rock. So like those big emotional swells. It's kind of similar to what I do, but with just less instruments. In that, you know, dynamically you can go from really quiet to really kind of intense. And like I saw Mogwai on the Mr. Beast tour at the Junction in Cambridge, and like it was around the time where they get louder and louder throughout the whole gig, so that you start off like it'd be like a reasonable volume level, and by the end of the gig it was just like your body was just like it was shaking and just with the sheer pummeling of noise. But again, like Rock Action was a really, you know, like Rock Action, there's a song called Secret Pint, and it feels like, you know, just these little pockets of vulnerability. Yeah, you know, and that was sort of my, and I was just a guitar nerd as well. But yeah, anyway, yeah.
Well, just to let you know, we're about just over three quarters of the way through, and I've done one page.
Amazing.
Out of my two with questions.
All right, cool. I'll keep my answers brief.
and you know that we're going to have to get into your musical origin story soon,
sick.
And our shared love of Prince of Thieves.
I watched it this morning.
Yes. But first, before we kind of get too derailed, what Nottingham acts are you vibing off at the minute? Nottingham's got an amazing, vibrant scene out there right now.
One of my favourite lyricists of all time is Alex Milne in the band Cat Milk. I played in Cat Milk for a little bit, but Alex is so good it's ruthless. Yeah, she's incredible, and her ability as a writer is
she's incredible. Yeah,
she's just one of the best. Yeah. I've been waiting for Blood Wizard to release Big Fish. They played Dot to Dot maybe like last year or the year before. Yeah, maybe it was last year they played maybe it was like 2023, Dot to Dot. Kai, from the band Cagoule, now Blood Wizard, they played this unbelievable set at the Chameleon. It was so hot and sweaty and rammed, and it was like the last gig of the night. And it was just so heavy and so good. Kai is it's frightening how talented that man is. It's funny as well because I was a fan of Kai and Cagoule before I even knew them, and so it was sort of weird transitioning from like an obscene fan to like just being a cool acquaintance. But they played this song called Big Fish, and it's got some of the best lyrics. So in this song, it's kind of jokes how simple it is, but it nails it on the head. The first line, the chorus goes, "I thought I was a big fish, but it turns out I was bait. I thought that I was eating, but now I'm on the plate." On the chunkiest guitars. Yeah, Blood Wizards are incredible. We were listening to Alice Robbins earlier. Alice Robbins, again, one of my favourite songwriters on the planet. She lives here, you know, she's incredible. Grain Mother is the name of the band now. Grain Mother is Alice's band. And I'll top it off with, obviously, Divorce, who are just gorgeous from the inside out. And one more as well. But Divorce are like, I don't know if you must know Divorce. Everyone knows Divorce, but like I've been gigging with Felix. The first gig I did with Felix, I've gigged with everyone apart from Tiger. Maybe I played, and I played shows with Tiger as well. And when they were Megatrain, but I've watched them all grow. We all sat on Broadway before the pandemic. I remember this one afternoon, we were all just sat, me, Adam, Alex, and Felix and Tiger. We're all just chatting stuff, and they're just so talented, those guys, and they deserve everything that's coming to them because they're working so hard, and they are, and it's a testament to what happens when art is supported. Like when you support an artist trying new stuff, they will exceed, well, not me necessarily, but they will exceed your expectations. And Divorce are just colossal. And same with Do Nothing. Do Nothing are my favourite Nottingham band. I've been in love with them, especially when they released $0 Bill. So a few albums made my record. The Streets of Grand Don't Come for Free.
Quality.
The Book of Traps and Lessons by K Tempest. Joys and Active Resistance by Idols. And then I was caning so much Do Nothing during the recording of my record, and I was dancing in my bedroom to it. That's weird to tell you about, but I was. And last year I did some session work for them, so I went on tour in the band, and it was just like, I was like, what is happening? We're in the van, and I was like, I'm in my favourite band. And like, and it was really cool. And they're just, again, like Chris Bailey has a precision with the way he sees the world, and the way he can express that to people is like, I'm not into calling people geniuses or once in a lifetime kind of things, but what we have in that band should be cherished, because flippin' heck, how often do you see it? Yeah. There's a hope inside of me. There's a hope inside of me. It's somewhere that I can't see. There's a hope inside of me. Lay your weary head on me. Lay your weary head on me. 'Cause there's something I can see. Lay your weary head on me. there's no hope inside of me. Am I too broken to believe? There's any hope inside of me. Lay your weary head on me. Lay your weary head on me. I'll break you off a bit of peace. I'll be air that you can breathe.
We know it's hard having to wait a whole month in between Left Line magazines. Heck, it's difficult enough getting through the week. Worry not, listener, we've answered the call. You can get a pithy, up-to-date digest of the best stuff going on in Nottingham each week direct to your inbox every Wednesday by signing up to the Left Line Weekly newsletter. Left Line Weekly contains our top recommendations of events, new content, exclusive competitions and more besides. So what are you waiting for? Visit leftline.co.uk/newsletter to sign up now.
One common theme, a common thread I've noticed in my time, as you know, I've spent quite a long time in the music business myself, and doing festivals and then working labels side and all the rest of it. And I call myself a recovering music promoter because it's a hard life. But one thing that I have spotted, and as you mentioned about the people that you've just talked about, they're nice people. People in music that do seem to go on and do well. They don't upset the stage managers on the way. They don't treat the sound tech like they're respectful people, aren't they? And would you say it's kind of critical and,
I mean, I got called pedantic on my last tour by a grumpy sound engineer in Scotland, But yeah.
You're a nice guy.
Do you know what as well? I think it's just, no one likes a band that are just horrible. If you meet someone that they ain't like, the rule of thumb is to try and leave people better off than what you found them in, And it also is like, this is a job. And so, annoyingly in music, there's no HR, which vexes me. Because it's just some terrible things happen, Misogyny is still a huge issue. And there's not really much recourse for people going through. There's none, really. Sometimes in life, terrible people succeed and become incredibly powerful. But hopefully, I can talk about Nottingham and the bands that I've been a part of, whether through love or tunes. It's such a supportive scene. Like I don't know if I've given you guys and Hockley, particularly Hockley, enough credit for how I journeyed up. Like I've told you about the EPs and stuff, but actually, my first gig in Nottingham was at the Maze. I was playing that. The bill was nuts. Yasmin Lacey was playing. Shelter Point.
Love Shelter Point. It's so good.
It was a really, and I didn't know anybody. Parisa, was it Parisa show? Was it an acoustical night? It was.
Probably
Parisa,
would have been.
Parisa organised it, and that was my intro. my first gig, and it was like, whoa, these people are sound. And then, like, Bradley at Jam Cafe was like, oh yeah, Dowdy, nice one. Come do a gig at Jam. I played the open mic, and then he put me on opening for like a metal band, and it was amazing. Like, I just did what I normally do, and then there was metal after it, and it worked perfectly. And it was just, and then Hockley Hustle, it just, you know, I've been the beneficiary of grace and favour in this city, and I've really been lifted up by just the friendships I've had and have by playing music here.
Such a beautiful big community of a scene these days, isn't it? It's just there's so much going on. Too many artists to mention. We could have been here probably for a full hour, continuing on that line. Quickly, before we fail to mention the fact that you've set up your own record label, tell us about that.
Yeah,
why? How is it?
It's not that interesting. So I basically I set up a label. It's called Really Good. Scrimshire helped me set up because basically when I finished my album, I was like, name were like expired. The expectation was I was signed to Name Records. They were going to release it. Turns out they didn't really. You know, this is going out on a podcast, so I've got to be kind of careful how I characterize this. But they kind of, it was frustrating and it led to lawyers. And the album was held back for 2 years. So I couldn't release, so it got finished in 2020 and it didn't come out until 2020. The first single came out in April 2023. And I got the rights back in January, and it was a nightmare, and I hope no one ever goes through what I went through with that ordeal, because the plan, obviously the pandemic ruined live music for a while, but the plan was to finish the record, then tour the record, then make another record, and hopefully do it till I die at 82 or 90 or 100, if I'm lucky. Anyway. And there was just like 2 years of no man's land. Some of you might have seen me working in PMT, the music shop. Big ups to them. And I worked at Confetti. Big ups Confetti. And it was hard because I had this record and I couldn't get it out. And so this lawyer called Anne Harrison, she wrote a book called Music the Business. It's a phenomenal book. It really is a guidebook for people trying to understand what the music industry is. She took pity on me and worked pro bono for 9 months to get me out of the deal. Her hourly rate will make your eyes water, and she did that for me, and I owe her my life. So I got the rights back, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna. I tried shopping around to a few different labels. No one seemed particularly interested, and I was like, and then Adam was like, hey man, I've got Albert's favourites. Well, I think you should do this on your one. And so he helped me set up my label, which is called Really Good. And it's sort of, the idea with that was just to kind of take some of the effort out of trying to convince people.
Have you got any ambitions to release other artists' work?
I do. Kind of I'm just a bit unreliable at the moment because I've got my own stuff. Because it is quite a lot of the lesson of like releasing the record and pressing it and doing all that stuff is it's quite a lot of work. And it's been amazing. We've sold over 500 copies of the records, which is, I've made minimum wage in turnover at least. Maybe not an investment, but in turnover. And it's bonkers, and I love it, but I'm open to like not doing it the same way every time. There is one thing I wanted to do, little 5-inch records of like 2-minute songs for mates, and just doing little physicals. So I'll just take it slowly, basically. Just chill, and if you see a really good release, that'd be cool, but we'll see what happens.
The industry ecosystem is wild, isn't it? It's changed so much. What's your advice to a musician starting out today, and where do you make your pennies? Are you still doing other work on the side?
At the moment, I've got enough work to last me to January.
Is it teaching?
No, gigs. Yeah, gigging. So this is all I'm doing now till
full-time artist.
Theoretically.
Congrats.
Yeah. It sort of still feels like I'm unemployed, but and you have to make. I'm really fortunate. I moved back to my folks briefly for a little while just to kind of get a bit more grounded. And so that, not everyone can do that, which is, so I'm incredibly grateful to them. But in terms of advice for artists, if you make a mistake, keep going. And that applies to every aspect of being a musician and a human being. There's been so many times, if I listened to myself at 19 and 21, I would not be a musician. If when Name didn't release my album, I just sacked it off. The keeping going is the thing. Like the tunes are fine. There's always going to be more tunes. If you just keep going, like I really believe that music is time served. Like all of this stuff. Like the longer you do it, if and also just like and be humble. It's humbling. Like move it. Like not earning very much money and living uncomfortably for multiple years. It takes. It's a hard thing to do, especially when you watch the changing of the guards. I don't know if you've seen this before in scenes where, like, after a certain point, a lot of bands that you come up with will go and do other things. And for example, this phrase, which is pretty toxic, but no one's asked me this in a really long time. But what are you going to do when you grow up? Have you got a plan B or this sort of stuff? And it and also totally legitimate. Like, it's really hard to make a living. But I really think if you keep going, just keep going. And also as well, like, take some of the intensity out of it all. It's just music. Like, yes, music is sacred to me, but so is being alive. And so it's sort of, you can, if music isn't, if it's like, I would like to start a family, and the economic system in the UK is such that me playing guitar to like 100 people once every 4 months is not viable, then that's fine. It's just tunes. But the thing is to not resent it. That's the thing. It's like, try and make decisions that you don't resent, and that's the hardest thing. And that's the lesson that I think I learned like early, in the sense that so here's my idea of a curse. You have a hit song, but you hate it. And for example, if Rick Astley hated that tune, right? Imagine how miserable his life would be. But you're watching a man who's joyful. That tune, I've forgotten the name of the song. Never Gonna Give You Up. If you watch the Glastonbury set, I think he plays it like 3 times or something. He is bringing joy to people, and you're watching a man who he doesn't regret his decisions, and that's so important as any kind of artist, just to not be tortured. The idea of being a tortured artist is utter bollocks. It's a waste of time, and no one should do it if that's the deal, because life is so much more beautiful than like accolades, and they're meaningless if you hate the work. Yeah.
You've given me a little in with the Rick Astley reference, I think, to move things, take it all the way back to the beginning. Now, I understand that your entire musical life was inspired by a man called Bryan Adams and a certain soundtrack to a certain locally based, if not thoroughly locally set, sharp film called Prince of Thieves. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Masterpiece. Problematic in places, but incredibly problematic in places.
So, as you know, I wasn't going to let this interview draw to a close without doing our breakaway Prince of Thieves pop quiz.
Nice one.
Are you ready?
I watched it this morning. I woke up at 6. I did like an hour, and then I watched it on the rest of it on train, and then some of it at home. I'm ready.
Well, it'd be a horrible waste, wouldn't it, if we didn't do the pop quiz?
Oh man, it was time well spent. I enjoyed myself.
Just for a moment, though, tell us about Everything I Do.
So I tried to learn it on piano after I did my grade 1. And my guitar teacher, who was at the time my piano teacher, was like, "Yeah, we can do Everything I Do," and I just didn't have the aptitude or the. I loved the song. The song's amazing, but I couldn't get it together, and I'd just play, and I was terrible, and I couldn't. I'm a music reader, and I'm a slow learner, and I just it was one of the catalysts for me stopping playing piano. My brother and sister were also amazing at piano, so that sibling competition kind of fed into it. But the song has been the one that got away for many years. Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like there are those in the room, maybe a generation just above us, 10 years or so older, and looking at some of my Left Line colleagues who will have been absolutely sick of that song being repeated. What was it, 16 weeks or something every day?
I wasn't a big radio kid. Well, I was radio, but only after like 6 p.m. So.
Oh, I loved it as well. Anyway, I still love it.
And I didn't really know Bryan Adams until after I tried to learn the song. Like I knew I was just into the film. The film was like I nearly cried like a couple times. There's this scene like about in Prince of Thieves, the Christian Slater Kevin Costner relationship, where I'm going to give you some spoilers because it was 1991. It turns out that like Will Scarlet is one of the Merry Men, is Robin Hood's brother, and then he's like, what did I do to hate you? And he's like, you ruined my life. And there's a whole thing, and it's just like, and he has reason to hate him, and they embrace, and he just says like, I'm with you to the end, man. Not like that. But it was just a beautiful moment of what seemed like forgiveness and acceptance at the same time.
There's so many layers to it. If you don't believe us, watch it again. That's all I can say.
I'm not into The Painted Man, however, as in the reference, they keep calling Morgan Freeman The Painted Man, and I found that annoying. But it does lead to like one of the most satisfying cinema deaths of all time, right at the end with the witch.
Although possibly a little bit unfair on witches, because witches have been rehabilitated.
Exactly, and that's another problematic thing we've come across. Yeah.
Anyway, should we do? Are you ready?
Yeah,
Are you ready for the quiz? Right. So, question number 1: which actor was originally offered the role of Will Scarlet before Christian Slater?
Will Scarlet. Oh man, I don't know. I'm going to hazard a guess. Who would have been around at that time? 1991. Will Scarlet.
I'll give you a clue. It's someone who has since become a slightly more problematic casting than he was then.
Oh no. Oh, Will Smith. No. No, why did I say that? That's not what I meant. I didn't mean to say it. I thought it, but I shouldn't have said it out loud.
Is that your final answer?
No. Problematic casting than he is now. So many actors are becoming. So many like the people who grew up loving are just like old men and angry. So I don't know.
I'm going to give it to you then. It's Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad it was Christian Slater.
Yeah, he smashed it. So, which castle was used as the location for Nottingham Castle?
It was somewhere in France.
Correct, but I'm going to need more.
I can't remember, but it was a French castle. One of the French castles.
Oh.
Sorry, dude.
I
watched the film, not the encyclopedia, not the behind the scenes.
Well, I hope you read the Left Line special edition in August 2022.
I actually read some of it.
Well, you might have one of these answers then.
I read the Costner tracking down, which I really thoroughly enjoyed.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all in the archive, guys. I think it's August 22. You can't miss it. It's got all the cast on the front cover.
It's amazing.
We're going to have to whiz through because we are bang out. We're over out of time, but we're enjoying ourselves, aren't we? We're enjoying ourselves, yeah. So it was Carcassonne.
Say that again?
Carcassonne was the castle.
Okay, I wouldn't have got that.
La Cité. I've visited numerous times. I got my family's near, but I got my dad's out there. So
nice one.
Yeah, it's lovely. And it's dead good. Standing at the walls, and you'd recognise it.
Fun fact: one of the greatest names in acting history, Derek Deadman, is in the film, and he played the character called Neelock is his name, and he has one of the greatest lines at the end of the film in that big battle scene. Where there's a scene where the Merry Men are going to get hung, and there's a boy that's going to get hung with them, and he gets slapped by a guard, and then Neelock goes, "Oh, bastard, you're right, mate. And it was just really, it's like, you all right? And it's followed by like some really awful acting. It's got like it's the best of both. It really gives and it takes. Yeah.
I'm going to have to look out for Neelock because this is educating me now.
I love that guy's character's brilliant. He's so low key.
This next one, right? Question number 3. I feel like if you just sort of put 2 and 2 together and think about who are the more articulate members of the cast.
Okay.
Which member of the cast had a significant hand in rewriting the initially uninspired script?
Oh, I've got knowledge about the editing because I feel like Kevin Costner, Alan Rickman was so good. The story goes that Costner was like, no, we need to pull some of it back. So Kevin Costner maybe rewrote. Oh, Rickman did it.
Correct.
Rickman, I got one right.
Hey.
Alan Rickman, we were lucky to have him.
What a legend.
Yeah.
Hiding answers. Which actor was thrown off and nearly crushed on horse by a set, crushed by a horse on set?
Who was nearly crushed by a horse on set?
Who rode a horse?
Everybody. Well, Costner did, Rickman did, Morgan Freeman did. Morgan Freeman was brilliant in that film.
Yeah.
Although there's something to be explored there about that character and how he was treated. But
all right. So we know Kevin Costner was a little bit difficult on set at times or in the editing process. But who can you imagine having fallen off a horse, nearly being trampled on, and getting straight back up and carrying on shooting the scene? Side character, side quest.
Psycho. It might have been Freeman.
No.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't Freeman. Not.
He's only in the earlier part of the film.
Oh, Blessed. Big ups, Brian Blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
nice one.
You've got 2 out of 4. You're doing really well. Okay, final question, and then and then we're unfortunately the pop quiz has to come to a close. In which part of The Anatomy did actor Mike McShane, in the role of Friar Tuck, initially want to land a blow on Kevin Costner's Robin Hood? It was switched to him
biting his leg.
Biting, yeah.
Oh, from that angle, it would have been his particulars.
Particulars. I'm looking for a different word, actually.
Okay. His testes.
I've got genitals on the page.
Okay, cool.
We'll go with testes. Thank you. So 3 out of 5. Can everyone have a mega round of applause?
All right.
Right, we are unfortunately going to have to bring this to a sad,
I could talk about Prince of Thieves forever.
It's
actually a brilliant.
I wanted to dedicate. I think we're going to have to come back for a second outing, aren't we?
I feel
Prince
like
of Thieves special.
Can we just hang out and talk about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Right. So, what's coming up in Dowdyland?
So trying to write 100 songs that you'll never hear because they're terrible, and then once I've got a few better ones, another record is going to get made. I might try and do another Nottingham gig before the year's out. Don't quote me on that. I'm trying to record a song for release this year, a new one. But really, just more shows, more connection, more tunes. That's basically it, and we'll just see where we end up. I said last night, thank you all so much for coming. We'll see if I come back next time. We'll see if this whole thing's a goer. So that's, still yet, nothing wrong with stopping, but I don't want to stop, so we'll just keep going. Yeah. Not much fun these days, I guess. Humor, well, I used to have it. I don't laugh so easily. I wish that I was less depressing. Terror lives inside my chest, and yes, I find it overwhelming. Disappear into thin air. All my hope, there's not much left. Underwater, taking breaths, my lungs, they have much to desire. I had swimming lessons as a child, I hope I still remember. Was feeling dark, but but now it's death. Shadows they whisper surrender, embarrassment up ahead, but I am grateful for my friends. I am grateful for my friends, oh I am grateful for my friends, oh I am grateful for my friends, I am grateful for my friends. Write an email, don't hit send, I lied, I didn't even write it, I just said it in my head and let the words delete themselves. When I speak I second guess, as they leave my mouth my words they tumble and undo themselves, while I'll just keep on rambling at you. Was feeling dark but now it's death. Shadows they whisper pretender, my bones they are filled with dread, but I am grateful for my friends. I am grateful for my friends, oh I am grateful for my friends, oh I am grateful for my friends, I am grateful for my friends. Thank you.
Leftline magazine is Nottingham's free printed culture guide. We aim to shine a light on the city and its culture, each month bringing you between 40 and 56 pages of independent local events and culture-based journalism. Every month we distribute between 10 and 15,000 copies for free in over 300 venues across the county. For example, you can find copies in every local library, every Castle Rock pub, in all active Nottingham leisure centres and in many other places besides. In line with our pledge to be a carbon neutral company, copies are delivered by our team on foot, by electric bike, or, if necessary, by vehicle. You can also read the full magazine online for free at leftline.co.uk/magazine. If you'd like to promote your business or organisation with us, please visit leftline.co.uk/advertise. And if you'd like to pitch us a story, please email editorial@leftline.co.uk.
So thanks everyone for listening to the end of today's podcast. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Dowdy Matsiko and those few tracks that he played for us there. If you do want to go back to listen to the Adam Buxton podcast that we mentioned during the interview, that is on episode 215 of the Adam Buxton podcast. And if any of the themes of mental health and depression have resonated with you, or you feel like you need a bit of help, you can call the Knots Helping Crisis phone line if you're local, and their number is 0808 196 3779. Or if you're listening elsewhere in the UK, you can call Samaritans UK on 116 123. Now, of course, you can go and listen to Dowdy Matsiko's music on all the usual spots. Check him out on Spotify, or you can follow him on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/Hello Dowdy. Of course, Dowdy's always playing live. Go and check out some of his future tour dates. He's just about to embark on a European tour during October and November, where he'll be reaching Slovakia, Belgium and Portugal. And yeah, just thanks again everyone for listening to today's show, and we'll hope to catch you next time.